Hi folks, I have your latest real estate numbers for the GTA up and including week ending September 20th, just a few days ago. My name is Santo Sessa with Remax Premier. I gotta tell you, analyzing these numbers for this week has taken a lot of work. There's a lot of explanation. There's a lot of things that aren't making sense, and it seems that the real estate market is just going a bit crazy right now. I'm going to talk about Vaughan first, freehold and condos, and then I'm going to talk about the City of Toronto, freehold and condos, and here we go. Okay, so Vaughan freehold properties, when we compare 1 week to the next, sales went up slightly, and they should be going up. I did expect sales to go up because the previous week was the Labor Day long weekend. It was kind of a shorter week, plus the attitude of back to school was on people's mind. There's a lot of buyers that kind of just paused a little bit on the buying, and sellers paused a little bit on the listing. So we did expect activity to go up. What we didn't expect, or no one expected, the average sold price shot way up. What's the difference there? $150,000, $160,000 difference when it comes to average sold price. So how do we explain that? Well, if we look at the amount of properties that sold over $2 million, that never changed. That stayed at 4. When we compare this price to the first week of March, we are way ahead than where we were before we went into the lockdown. Well, what I've seen through digging deeper is that we sold for this week here, weekend September 20th, a lot more properties in the higher price bracket. And that has brought up the average sold price up by an abnormal number, higher by about $150,000, $160,000. So from 1 week to the next, average sold price for freehold properties in Vaughan has shot up. Compared to last year, well, this huge increase here has us up almost 23% higher than where we were last week this time. Now, we're talking on a weekly basis here, so it's so important that you don't take that as, wow, right now at this time, we're doing unbelievable. My house is worth 23% higher. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in this circumstance, during this week, we are almost 23% higher than we were same time last year for the same week. Sales. We are consistently selling, this is for Vaughan freeholds, we're consistently now for weeks selling more properties than what we sold the same time last year. And of these 65 that sold, 42% sold at list price or more. The same time last year was only 15% that sold at list price or more. So the market is more active this year, and we are selling more properties. We have more listings coming on the market. So when we compare the market this year to the market last year, during the lockdown and a few months after the lockdown, we were way behind. We were behind in volume, we were behind in listings and sales, but we've caught up now. We are on par for what we did last year, and maybe should even have a much stronger year when it comes to activity this year. Now, months of inventory. Months of inventory drop slightly, and normally when months of inventory goes down, prices go up. That's what happened here, but that is an abnormal large amount of increase in average sold price. So, down the road, we expect this to come down a little bit because that's a record price. Looking at Vaughan condos. We sold 16 last week, and 16 is one of the higher numbers that we've had in a long, long time. Average sold price jumped up a little bit, and we are just slightly lower than we were before we went into the lockdown when it comes to average sold price. This particular week, we are a little bit over 13% higher than we were last year at the same time for average sold price. The week before we were lower, we were higher, lower. if we average it out, and that's really what I like to see. I like to kind of look at this and not make or break my decision based on 1 week. I like to kind of look at the trend. Vaughan condos are generally priced higher this year, selling at a higher price this year than what they did last year. We are selling less condos consistently every single week, but we are listing more condos in Vaughan every single week. And this particular week was a huge difference. So we are buying less, but we're putting more on the market. We expect months of inventory to be high. And although they did dip slightly from 1 week to the next, months of inventory at 3.7 months is just borderline of getting into the balanced market. Now, if you could kind of think about anywhere between 4 to 6 months of inventory is a balanced market. Less than 4 months is a seller's market. Above 6 months is a buyer's market. By balanced market, I'm kind of meaning, you're looking to buy a condo, you go into the building. If there's one for sale and 5 buyers want to buy it, that's very aggressive. You kind of know that that seller is really in charge. More of a balanced market, and we could see with the amount of listings going out there, you're going into a building to buy a condo, and there's a few of them for sale. They similar size, similar square footage, similar features in the same building. The buyer has some choices. The sellers are still holding on to their price, which explains why prices have not dropped. And buyers are paying the money, but you have some choices. As more and more choices come up, we can see the future of prices coming down. Let's get into the Toronto market. And I'm always excited to talk about the Toronto market because it is it's the epicenter of real estate across the GTA. What happens in Toronto normally permeates outwards to the surrounding areas. And with the volume of sales that we do, we get a more real number, let's say. So when we look at the amount of sales, 393, that's almost close to 400. It's amongst the largest that we have before we went into the lockdown. So sales are very strong for Toronto freehold prices, for Toronto freehold homes. When we look at the amount of properties selling at $2 million or more, we went from 24 the previous week to 49. That's a big jump in the amount of properties selling at $2 million or more, which helps to explain the huge increase in price. So similar to what happened to Vaughan freeholds, we had a huge increase from 1 week to the next in the Toronto freehold properties, also around $150,000, $160,000 increase in average sold price from 1 week to the next. It was a little bit more difficult explaining this in the Vaughan market, but Toronto, I'm kind of looking at this. Okay, so one really quick explanation that stands out is the fact that we sold so many more properties at $2 million or more. For sure, that's going to bring up the average sold price. Well, when we're comparing to where we were before the lockdown, we're still a bit lower than where we were pre-lockdown pricing. But from 1 week to the next, huge increase in price. The average freehold property in Toronto last week sold at $1,433,000. Compared to where we were last year at the same time, well, if we look at the amount of properties that sold at $2 million or more, we're kind of the same. 47 last year, 49 this year, so that doesn't explain 1 year to the next. But we are almost 11% higher when it comes to average sold price. So we can't explain it with the amount of properties that sold at $2 million or more. Our price is worth more. Well, generally speaking, we've had a higher average sold price when it comes to Toronto properties, Toronto freehold properties. Prices generally are higher. Prices, although were trending down, they did jump up for this week. We need to you need to stay tuned over the next few weeks to see what kind of trend are we on now. Trends change. Sales. We are selling more than what we're selling last year. And consistently, every single week, we're selling far more Toronto freehold properties than what we sold last year. Now, of these 393 that sold last week, 70% sold at list price or more. I'm going to repeat that. Of the 393 freehold properties we sold last week, 70% sold at list price or more. That's a crazy number. 70%. That's here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Recently, I spoke with somebody who's been living in their home for 35, close to 40 years. And they're saying, Santo, we want to sell and we want to buy in this neighborhood. So I went online, I was sitting in their house there, and I pulled up my laptop, I showed them kind of the properties and talked to them about budget and where they want to buy. And I asked, how long has it been since you've bought a house? Oh, this is 40 years ago, this is the last house we bought. And the mentality of somebody who has not been in the market for a long, long time is that they see a price and negotiate down. It's just automatic. You see a price and you negotiate down. Well, if those of you that are realtors watching this, or those of you that are looking to get into the market for the first time in a long time, that mentality is going to have you really going crazy in your mind. That mentality is going to have you miss out on a lot of properties. That price that's the home is listed at really needs to be analyzed by your realtor. And you've got to decide, is this priced to create a bidding war? Last week, 70% of the properties sold at list price or more. So way more than half. People were buying right away, giving what people are asking for list, or they're competing and selling over asking. And if you're negotiating down, you're going to miss out on a lot of these properties. But there are a lot, 30%, that are negotiated down. So you really got to watch the pricing strategy. And those people that see this, that read the sign that says sold at list price or more, you're not standing out anymore. 70% sold at list price or more. Sold over asking doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. Listings. We are listing slightly more than what we sold, than what we were listing last year when it comes to freehold. Months of inventory. Months of inventory at 1.5 months, that's a strong, aggressive. We're in a seller's market. There's no doubt, and we're consistently in a 1.4, 1.5. And although over here we went down to 1.1 and prices kind of dropped, that was a bit abnormal. The fact that we're staying here and prices have come up, sometimes there is a delay in average sold price when it comes to months of inventory. But, you know, what we're seeing here in the Vaughan market, in the Toronto freehold market, we're seeing a lot more people looking to get out of their condos and into the freehold properties. They're looking to get into a freehold townhouse, a freehold semi, a detached. They're looking for more space, especially with the mentality of before it was, I'm a professional, I work downtown, that's where the majority of the office jobs are, so I want to live close, and they're buying a small condo, and they're making it work. Now, with I'm working from home, my company's kind of liking the idea now, and they're saying, you know, we don't need to pay crazy amounts of rents in some of these condo towers downtown, so we are going to allow you to work from home indefinitely or for the foreseeable future. So now you've got husband and wife, you've got boyfriend and girlfriend, you've got people working from home in a confined area looking to get into maybe more of a freehold property and move out. They don't need to live that close to work anymore. Toronto condos. Sales jumped up. We expected that from holiday week with a holiday Monday to a full week. So sales jumped up. The amount of properties that sold at $1 million or more jumped up also to 28. And it's one of the best weeks we've had in a long time of condos selling at $1 million or more. And, you know, I know there's a lot of talk in the news about condo prices and coming down, and wow, we got so many going up. And you're right, there's a ton of condo listings, and I'll show you now. We're breaking a record there also with the amount of listings going on the market. But prices, for weeks now, they've been going up. Some things are hard to explain. I can tell you what's happening here, that a lot of the condos right now that are being sold are in the upper tier of the price point. They're the two-bedroom condos, the two-bedroom plus den. There's more of those being sold now. Maybe these are more families that live in them looking to get into a freehold property, but there's a lot more of them, and it's forcing average sold prices to increase. Now, what's also happening with condos is the majority of condos, especially in the downtown core, the majority of condos are investments. People have bought them as a second home or third home with the attitude of renting them out, with the attitude of putting them on Airbnb. That market has changed. What's also happened is a lot of those condos, they're not cash flow positive, these investment condos. So people that own these have been putting in money every single week. Well, when there's financial pressure, it gets harder and harder to maintain those condos that are not cash flow positive. So you're seeing people selling off these condos, and we'll see that in a little while with the amount of listings coming on there. When it comes to average sold prices compared to last year, we're consistently higher. 10%, 10%, 9.3% for last week. We're consistently higher. Watch this though. Last year we sold at $1 million or more. We sold 43 condos in the same week. This year we sold 28. I would expect, just because of the sheer difference in the amount of condos sold at $1 million or more, I would expect either average sold price to be closer or the reverse, but we're still much higher than what we were last year in average sold price. See, something's a little bit tricky to explain. Sales, we're selling way less condos this year than what we sold last year. 36% of the 251 that we sold last week sold at list price or more, so there's still competition. There's still a third of those are you're competing for, or you're paying right away, you're paying what it's listed at. Very different than a freehold where it was over 70%, but this is a third. Listings, look at this. We are listing way more condos than what we listed last week. So picture this, we're buying less, but there's more and more being put on the market. Well, the fact that price has gone up is really difficult to explain. We need to do a lot more research, and I'm seeing that it's the upper tier condos that are selling more than the bachelor or the one bedrooms in the lower tier. However, the months of inventory at 4.6, very much inside the balanced market, is a realistic number based on the fact that there's so many more listings and less properties being bought. That's what's happening that's what has happened this week in the GTA real estate market. This has been a tough week to really understand. No one's, I guess, really expected prices in all these segments to go up. They have, but you need to stay tuned, because over the next few weeks is going to really determine, are prices coming down, are prices going up. It's really important you stay tuned and you don't base all your decision on 1 week. Work with a strong realtor that could analyze these numbers and kind of look in the area around your home or the property you want to buy to really give you an idea of what's happening there. My name is Santo Sessa with Remax Premier. Please subscribe below, hit the bell so you're reminded of these new videos, and I hope you're having a very, very safe day. Thank you.